and where we tend to be quite informal, the way we run our activities. Okay, so as what Glenn shared earlier, these are the founding partners, and today, of course, we have grown to more than that. I'm quite happy about that. And, we have incorporated Brands for Good as a non-profit organization registered in Singapore. So we did that in 2019. And we hope, going forward, right, we can continue to build our community. We now have over 300 SMEs around us. And we also, have been building our networks, right, into the various parts of ASEAN, right. So that's one of them. We have a tie-up with ASEAN CSR, a part of the ASEAN family, and together we created this network called the ASEAN Responsible and Inclusive Business Alliance. In short, it's called AREBA, right? So that's a brief story about the formation of AREBA. And so last year, we had this featured by Business Times. So that's a team you see, and most of them are actually part of CEO Asia. And they are really the guys behind the scene, doing all the hard work, getting all the programs going, organizing all the activities. So what's the big idea, as what Glenn mentioned earlier, at the introduction? The gist of it all is that we were trying to, we recognize intellectual property as something, that sort of hold the creative power to solve many problems. And many of our problems today, both whether it's social or environmental, needs a lot of ideas, right? And we believe the ideas are there, right? It's all about execution. It's all about having the right platform to carry out your ideas. So within this community, we, of course, by virtue of where we come from, right? From IPOS is in Intellectual Property Office of Singapore, IIPCC representing the more regional, in fact, a more global network. So we try to leverage on all this know-how to support our enterprises, especially the social enterprises, right? To create a model that achieves the triple bottom line, right? So that's really the gist of it. So as you can see, recently, maybe a couple of years back, the rise of ESG, both in investment as well as a business model, I think has gained a lot of attraction, a lot of prominence. Many scholarly articles are showing that this is the way to go, right? So we also have Prof. Soo, the President Emeritus of NTU, right? Very supportive of what we do as well. So our mission are basically threefold, right? So we are a platform, right? We don't know the business as well as you do. So as a platform, and of course, as our name implies, right? Trying to build your brand as a good brand. We also tie up with many brand experts, right, to help our winners, especially the Brands for Good winners, to help them differentiate their brands effectively, right, as an intangible assets. And at the same time, as we go into the ASEAN community, we want to showcase, we want to raise all these brands for good, with the stories to inspire the world, all right. And then thirdly, of course, is to create this community together. So there are fourfold sort of a proposition, right, we bring to the table. One is the IP competency, as I mentioned earlier, all right. Two is the community that we build, all right, and all this various connectivity, right, and wherever it helps, we hope to connect. And then three is the capital, right. So we also tie up with many capital for good or fund houses who believes in this do good aspects of a business, all right. And finally, identifying all these champions that we can both work with and invest in, right, to grow together. So these are some of the past activities that we organized. The last forum we did, we had Minister Edwin Tong as our guest of honor, right? Then the launch of AREBA, right? We had Ambassador Ong Keng Yong as our guest of honor, right? Then we also had a private dialogue with Chan Chun Seng. That was in 2020, right? Wow, a lot of people are streaming in. And also we had the privilege of working with Prof. Lim Xiong Guan, and also Lim Hui Hua. So this was the launch of our Brands for Good when was it, in April this year, right? And this is an event that we did with the Cambodia Chamber of Commerce, where we hosted them in Singapore, right? So these are some activities that we do, and of course, in the wake of COVID, we now sort of are being restricted to hold most of our meetings in via Zoom, right? Hopefully, once we are able to, we would like to, resume many of our face-to-face meeting, all right? And I think nothing beats being able to meet face-to-face. Okay, so the few ways we like to invite people to join us, all right? Nominate your companies, all right? If you think that some of these companies that you know of or your own companies, support this triple bottom line objective, or you design your business model this way as well. You can join us as a sponsor. Join us in many of our investment projects. We are always looking for partners where we can do things together. And if you have a community project, you need to mobilize us. We are most happy to support you. We are also on our YouTube channel, all right, our LinkedIn channel. So that's what we do. We try to become a communication platform, right, for businesses to leverage on, all right. So we also recently started a studio, and we'll be happy to create videos for you and sort of help you feature yourself, gain some prominence on social media. So that's what we do, all right. That's Brands for Good. Thank you. Back to you, Glenn.
Okay, thanks a lot, Alan, and appreciate the sharing. So, of course, as Alan has shared, Brands for Good is a campaign. We want to sort of celebrate businesses. So, if you know of anyone, the awards is open. There is a nomination fee. I think it's $500 if you are. It's still Maybank's thunder. If you are a Maybank customer, nomination fee is half, right? It's $250. And this, of course, the campaign would not be possible if it had not been for Maybank support. And I think I'm going to sort of pass on the mic to April today, who is going to share a little bit about Maybank and why, hopefully explain a little bit why Maybank is Brands for Good sponsor as well. Thanks, April.
Okay, give me a while. Let me share screen now. Yep, can you all see it? Can?
Yep.
Yes, can.
Hi everyone, I'm April from the Maybank SME team, and together with me today, I also have Irina. Okay, so basically we're here to support the whole BFG movement and so-called all the activities by BFG. So let me share with you some intro about Maybank Group. Okay, so basically we are the largest financial group in Malaysia. Okay, currently we have over 43,000 Maybankers to help in your financing and your banking needs. And if you're not aware, Maybank was actually locally incorporated in 2018, whereby we become local citizens. So what does this mean? It means that we are basically on similar par with the local banks, DBS, OCBC, and UOB. This means that in terms of the financial products as well as our presence in the branches around Singapore will be so-called not so restricted as compared to the QFB bank. So now, I will just share about basically what are the good things we have done so far. So Maybank is actually recently launched a Momentum grant, I think back in April, a few months back, whereby this grant actually aims to help the organizations, those charity organizations, to tide through the difficult times, especially now during the pandemic. So this grant is actually it's an interest-free grant whereby we give up to 4 months of operating expenditure capped at 150K, and as you can see the date, there's a next tranche cost actually this month, July. So basically, if you know of any charity organizations that are keen to explore the grant, to get a grant, you can actually feel free to contact us to find out more. So, and in addition for the grant, we also have classes as well as consultation sessions to help these charities to thrive and then to build stronger sustainability, which is quite common currently. And of course, if organizations that actually do not require any grant support, okay, we're also very pleased to give them a special banking package whereby we're giving preferential interest rates for their deposit with us and also giving them free digital solutions. So far, this is what I've covered about the CSR aspect of it. So now I'll talk about what Maybank has to offer for the commercial companies. So Maybank is very which is actually one of the participating financial institutions with Enterprise Singapore. So currently, this working capital solutions is what we are offering to all SME businesses, which is namely the working capital loan, the temporary bridging loan, as well as the EFS trade loan. So let me cover about working capital loan, which is in short WCL. So this is mainly to help the bridge of working capital needs of companies, and is unsecured, meaning that the guarantors of a loan simply have to provide personal guarantee and no collaterals are required. And for the temporary bridging loan, this is actually a loan that was specially curated by Enterprise Singapore to help businesses during these COVID times. So this is meant to help them to guide them through this COVID pandemic, whereby maybe they have to cope with certain additional expenses of the business because of pandemic driven. And similar to the WCL, this is also unsecured, meaning that the guarantors of a loan simply just have to give a personal guarantee for the facility and no collaterals is required. And this amount is up to 3 million currently, which is previously was actually 5 million, but now with in changes starting 1st April, the amount has actually been lowered to 3 million. And for the EFS trade loan, this product is mainly for businesses with trade requirements. So basically, what happens is that the bank will actually help to pay your suppliers directly, and after that, of course, the companies will then have to pay us back when their customers pay them for the purchases. So this actually helps to alleviate them in terms of the cash flow and the liquidity gaps. And lastly, we also finance in terms of the commercial property financing. So be it example, if you intend to buy a new industrial property or commercial, or example, if you're existing property, you can also do a refinancing. Okay, so loan-wise, we can finance up to 90% or even 70%, depending on the purpose of the property being financed. And of course, lastly, like what Glenn mentioned, we also have the usual CASA current account. So what happens that, of course, if you are an existing Maybank customer, you get actually 50% off the nomination fee if you intend to sign up for Brands for Good nomination. So if your intention wants to nominate yourself and you are not existing Maybank customer, you can actually give us a call. We help to so-called open a current account for your company. Yes, that's all for myself.
Sorry, I couldn't hit my mute button. Hi, thanks, April. Thanks very much. Oh, wow, I think a lot more of us than we started off. Hi, guys, and thank you all for joining us. And thank you, April, for sharing a little bit about Maybank. I mean, as many of you know, Brands for Good has been running this with Maybank for over 3 years already, and really are quite supportive. And my own personal experience working with the team at Maybank has been extremely rewarding. I mean, not from a sense of commercial gains, but as the sense of fellowship. Maybank has been one that really speaks about doing good, and is very, very supportive of this ESG movement throughout our whole 3 years. You know, one of the few banks I know now that still has account servicing people willing to travel and meet up with you and really want to sit down and have coffee and talk to you about your business. So there are very few banks that still do that, and I appreciate the team from Maybank. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to pass on the mic over to Bernard. But before I do that, I'm going to do a final call out. Two things. One, I've dropped in the chat group our Brands for Good WhatsApp chat link. I want to invite every one of you who are not on any of our Brands for Good. This is our third Brands for Good chat. We've already hit 200 over for Brands for Good 1 and 2, and we thought better start opening up a third one so that we can continue to foster the community. So the link is in the chat there on your Zoom screen at the bottom. If you click the chat button, you can go and join that link so that you can sort of keep in touch with our campaigns. Two, of course, now is over to FTA. A brief introduction. Bernard is the CEO of Fintech Academy. Recently appointed. For those of you who are familiar with Fintech Academy and Prof. Lilian Koh, which is here to us today, if she's want to turn on her camera and wave again, she can. But if not, Prof. Koh has appointed Bernard, and Bernard is used to be, oh, there, hi, hey, Prof. She turned on her camera, but she's frozen in time.
I think the connection is.
Are you there, Prof? Oh, yeah, I think her connection quite bad. Yeah. Prof, we can't hear you. Don't. Oh, okay, you're finally moving. Okay. So, Bernard is actually a banker, if I'm not wrong, right, Bernard?
Yes, I was.
And it has been with not Maybank, unfortunately. So sorry, but still the same. We're still family. But has recently joined Fintech Academy as the lead for as the CEO of Fintech Academy, and today topic is on demystifying fintech, right? So I hope we are looking forward to hearing what he has to share with us. And again, don't forget, Brands for Good nominations now open. So stay on. Right. Over to you, Bernard.
Hey, thanks, Glenn. Thanks. Let me share my screen right now. Give me a second.
Sure.
Okay. Can you all see my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, presentation mode. Okay, so very, very honored to be here. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Brands for Good, for inviting Fintech Academy here. So today I'm here to demystify fintech, and then to basically just run through what fintech is all about and its evolution from finance. So, but before I will carry on with my presentation. So I'll just talk a bit about my experiences. So currently, I'm the CEO of Fintech Academy. I also sit in the board of the Singapore Fintech Association. So we represent the Singapore fintech community in this space. But before that, as Glenn has shared, I have been banking most of my career, 17 years. I was doing all the heading the wealth proposition team in UOB, in Standard Chartered Bank. I was online trading. So if you use a stock trading system in Standard Chartered, I was heading that product. So in the course of my work, I did roll out a lot of robo-advisors for the bank. My last project was the open banking project with MES for the bank. So now all the banks are connected. Consumers now, you have more power to your own data. You can choose using SingPass to share your data with any banks of your choice. So things are really evolving, and I'm very excited to be in the fintech space and in Fintech Academy. So before I just start my presentation today, I'll just run through the agenda. So at the start, I will just talk about give everybody an introduction to fintech and the landscape today, and then identify what are key reasons for emergence of fintech, what's powering all these interests in the recent times, and how the FIs, financial institutions, are responding to all these equivalent banks, how are they responding to all this competition that's coming up. And then because I believe most of you are SME owners and coming from SME, so I'll just talk a bit about some case studies on the impact of fintechs on SMEs, and then to conclude. So before we jump straight into fintech, let's take a step back. Let's look at we are currently in the fourth industrial revolution, and I believe most of you are very familiar with all this. You have seen in the past cycle. Industrial one, when in the 1700s, it was powered by steam based. Come the 1800s, the second revolution, it's electricity based mass production, so empowering all these factories. And in the early 70s, there we have controller-based automation. So every nation, so we see during the third industrial revolution, there was a lot of mass production going on. It's computer-based solutions are quite prevalent. And now we are in the industrial revolution, the fourth one, the most recent one. And we talk about smart factory, we talk about production and control. But the fourth industrial revolution is it's not so much like the past, whereby it's technological led. There's a lot more component, and perhaps you must be wondering, where is the AI? Where is all the fintechs coming in? In fact, fintech is the key driver during this fourth industrial revolution. If you look at the current smart factory that set up these days, we talk about advanced digital production technologies, talk about biotech, new materials are being formed, nanotech, but all this, what's underlying, if you see on the right side, it's about Internet of Things, like what Glenn was sharing about, even a prawn farm in Singapore is using IoT. And then combining with that big data analytics at the back to do predictive analytics to work out the sales production, predict the demand and supply. And then there's advanced robotics right now, powered by AI, machine learning, and cloud computing. All these are all spearing and powering the fourth industrial revolution. So it's, I was saying, it's not just technological advances and like what the first three industrial revolution, where it's man using machine. The fourth one is about the machine integrating very much into our present life, into our lifestyle. And I will have a lot more examples to show, all those fintechs case studies to show. It could be facial ID recognition, your day-to-day, or your smartphone, or even voice activated assistants, or like your Alexa, Google, or Siri, and then digital healthcare sensors. So all these are here today, and all powered by fintech. That's why I'm very happy to be here to share, about this, about more about fintech and the exciting time that we are in. And before we go into all the exciting case studies, I'd like to define, basically just run through the definition of fintech, because everybody might have a different understanding about fintech. Some associated with, most I would think associated with cryptocurrencies. That's the recent craze these days, but it's a lot more: digital money, online banking, wealth tech, regular tech, crowdfunding, payments, blockchain. Basically fintech is about the innovative use of technology and even a change of business model. It's about innovation. It's about improving and transforming the whole delivery of financial services and products to consumers and businesses like you. So it's not just consumer centric, it's also to the business. And in fact, fintech has been around for quite a long time. Unlike a lot of people was thinking fintech is like the last 5-10 years ago, but no, actually, maybe in the early 50s, where there's this diagram just show about the progression of fintech, starting from Diners Club, in the 50s. It's a credit card. There's a lot we can do with that. Then along the way, all this. Nasdaq introduces electronic trading in the early 70s, and there was a stock market craze. Everybody is trading, online. Then in the 80s in Singapore, we saw e-trade. We saw a lot of e-brokerage services trading. Everybody's buying stocks counter, and then PayPal came along, early 2000s. So that was, but I think by definition, a lot of people associate fintech by maybe early 2000s, but actually it's been here for a long time. And talking about cryptocurrencies, blockchain, in fact, is not a recent thing. In fact, it was around since 2010s. So it's 10 years of technology. Just that there wasn't much use case at the time. Nobody really pondered over it. There's so many things going on. Then Google Pay came along, then Alibaba, and then in recent years, in Singapore, we see digital-only banks. So next year we're going to welcome 2 digital retail banks, and and then same goes for wholesale banks, all digital-only. So that is the evolution of modern fintech, and fintech came a long way, as you can see. And today, in the current Singapore landscape, the fintech landscape, there are more than 430 startups, fintech startups, with around 10,000 fintech employees within Singapore. And it's still growing. We anticipated the growth for hiring in the fintech space over the next 3 years. We will need 50 to 60,000 more people to power this. It's a phenomenal growth that we're experiencing. And there's so many use cases right now benefiting consumers and benefiting businesses like all of you. But of course, comes with fintech, it's about disruption as well. And banking, incumbent banks, currently they face a lot of challenges today. For instance, if you can see DBS, just an example. In fact, it's the same for all banks. These are some of the products they have been selling, and in recent years, there's a fund supermarket. The stock price is doing pretty well, especially during COVID. So people are like, there's always more competition within this space. All powered by technology and fintech. And you see, if you look closely to the product holdings that Fundsumat can offer: bonds, funds, stocks, ETFs, research, and they even have insurance now. So as compared to banks, pretty much same products. There's a lot of similarity, and banks are really facing the competition. And this is just brokerage, and fintech. There's a lot more. If you look at all the services in banks, starting from foreign currency, you will see multi-currency cards, by all this U-Trip, great product, Revolut, and then there's robo-advisors replacing the RMs. People, young people, even anybody, man on the street or anyone they're actually very interested in the robo-advisors. Stashaway, they did very well. Endawas was featured recently. So there's a lot of attention into this space, and obviously there's a lot more peer-to-peer lending, remittance, personal finance, payments, insurance, insurtech. So all these are challenging the banks these days. And of course, from a consumer standpoint, we all benefits. And from a business standpoint, we also benefit as well, because there's so much more offerings being delivered by all these fintech companies. And what exactly is powering all this? In fact, there's the underlying that making all this possible is AI, machine learning at underlying, predicting the customer's need, anticipating, because all these tech companies you see are very lean. They do not have a lot of staff like the banks. They have just a platform, and then how do they serve so many people at one shot using digital only? So AI, machine learning play a big part in this. Blockchain, there's a lot of coverage these days on blockchain, mainly cryptocurrency, but blockchain itself as a technology has disrupted a lot of the bank's business. And there was a lot of speculations that in the next 5-10 years maybe banks will not exist anymore, because there are such technologies around. And of course, powering all this big data is the new oil. It's really anyone who has the most data, is a very valuable companies. Yeah. So, but what essentially it's the emergence, those are just the companies, what they're offering, but what is really pushing? What's the main reasons for the emergence of these fintechs? Basically, there are 4 main areas: advancements in technology, like what I shared earlier, the AIs. Later I'll run through into more details. And then the changes in consumer behavior. All of us are, we are also more digitally savvy these days. We are more savvy financially. We know what's the best deal out there. Then there's a lot more investments into fintech as compared to 10 years ago currently. And of course, there's a lot of blessings from the regulators. There's a lot of new regulations and policies to support fintech and innovation. So in the areas of advancements in technology, as I shared, that powers all these fintech company, because of all these advancements in big data, blockchain technology, AI, machine learning, IoT, Internet of Things, and of course, we are using a lot more smartphone these days. All of us have a smartphone. Internet is readily available. The Wi-Fi is everywhere, and so consumers, all these technologies are enabled and really empowered consumers like us to harness all this technology for better value, for your day-to-day lifestyle, and it's all the timing. It's like it's all ready. It's all here, and it's really convenient for all of us. And essentially, I think it's a very even as businesses, I think we also need to recognize that there's a majority shift in consumer behavior. You and I, we most of us will watch Netflix on TV these days. We shop on Amazon. We listen music on Spotify. During COVID, we order food from Deliveroo, Grab Food, Uber Food. That was last time. And then TikToks, the youth are all viewing their entertainment on TikTok. So all this basically is so entrenched into our day-to-day life. We're so used to the all these predictive analytics. When you shop on Amazon, they will put something that maybe you like this, you might like this. On Netflix, using predictive analytics behind the AI, they really observe what have your choices been all this while, and then they will anticipate you might like this program because you watch this perhaps you like this. So there was a lot of recommendation and very personalized ones, empowered by AI and machine learning, and it's widely used into in all these platforms, e-commerce platforms, even TV. That as consumer unknowingly, we are so used to it, and when we come to our banks. Unfortunately, when it comes to the banks platform, I was in a bank, many banks. So, consumer will complain. It's like, oh, you got internet banking, but your app sucks. Things like that. Because consumers are so used to the interface, the excellent UI UX design on the, on Amazon. It's a hygiene these days. Excellent UI UX or predictive analytics. They're so used to it. So such that when they come to a bank's website or any website that's older in version, they will feel that, oh, the UI UX is lousy. And it's especially true, especially when, in banking, where a lot of products, consumer will think that, these are homogeneous products. End of the day, some consumer actually chooses the banks based on the app, how easy it is to use, and what else can the bank do for me. So it has moved beyond the expectation and moved beyond products holdings. And, likewise, for businesses, you come to one point, pricing, and then products differentiation can. Besides that, consumer might be looking at how seamless is the process to buy something from you, how good is your interface, how intuitive it is. So things like that have become a hygiene and widely anticipated and expected as part of the hygiene from consumer. And I was sharing, there's a lot more attention and radar in the fintech space. Everybody's excited. The investments have been pouring within into the fintech space. Except in 2018, there was because of N Group, there was a large inflow into this space. But otherwise, we saw the investments into fintech has been increasing over the years. In fact, in Q1 2021, it's quite a recent report, but he has rise exponentially quarter on quarter, and the trend is still rising. So the COVID has actually pushed and focused a lot of consumers and investors into this space, about fintech and the potential it can bring looking forward. And also the regulators, they have come to terms and realized that the importance of innovation. They have eased the way of entry for fintech to promote innovations. They have eased a lot of policies to encourage fintech. In fact, they've been pouring some grants within a lot of for fintech discovery, in incubators. There has been so much coverage there, and regulators are really more receptive. And of course, it also reflects the cultural mindset shift of the country, and a lot of, because the citizens are so used to having fintech so entrenched into our lifestyle, into our day-to-day, things like that. It's moving the regulators, and it's good. It's more friendly environment for fintech. So fintech is here, and the presence will only get larger, So, but then, okay, then the question is, so many discussions going on, so how are the FIs and the financial institutions responding? Are they facing the Uber moment, how Uber came in and then disrupted the taxi drivers, things like that. How are the banks responding? How are the other financial institutions responding? If they really don't disrupt themselves, they will be disrupted by, like for instance of a Blockbuster. Last time, videotape used to be 9,000 stores worldwide, but until today it's only one store. So if you're not fast and vigilant to transform your business, you'll be disrupted. And banks are facing that right now, and the banks are doing a lot more, are doing a lot of things as we speak because of the disruptions. But likewise, I believe it's not just a banking threat. It goes out. You affect all the businesses, and whoever can digitize the best during the year of COVID last year. We've seen that a lot of players benefited, but those who are slower, they will see their business suffered along the way as a result. So disruption is real. I guess what's next is how do we go about coping with it? So how banks, what do they do? Digital bank is coming next year. So some banks haven't set up, like Standard Chartered, they have been one of the incumbent banks, but despite having a branch-based kind of a bank, they decoupled themselves and have introduced a MOX in Hong Kong. And next year they are also having a digital-only bank, to compete with the competition right now. So they kind of decouple themselves and focus on digital-only proposition to serve the customers and to fight head-on with the fintech. And of course, a lot of businesses as well as banks, they went through big digital transformations, and some came on the headlines like DBS, done pretty well. They are known as the world best banks, through digital transformation. The whole culture is a cultural transformation. Later, I'll share some pointers about success factors, about how to go about a successful digital transformation. I've been to 2 banks, and during which I spearheaded the transformation projects over there. It's not easy, but the results are fruitful. And then we see banks, partnering. Can't be them, join them. They partner fintech or they adopt fintechs, because fintech are good at what they do. So banks sometimes they don't have the expertise. They rather partner or they buy over. There are such cases. So for instance, OCBC, this came out in their public report as part of the financials. They use machine learning to detect AML, anti-money laundering. So they improve. So these are all public information. They 4.5x more efficient than using all this AI stuff for lead sizing. They identify a lot of created a lot of sales opportunities there. For the customers offer, they have real-time contextual offer, based on your location, because you carry a handphone, your smartphone, they are able to locate you and then they push out the relevant offers based on where you are, and offer you the right thing. And, then of course there's a 24/7 virtual chatbot to solve all our queries in the middle of the night. When the hotline people are off, the chatbot is still there. So it's kind of augments the way the customer service they provide to the banks. So all these are here today, and the banks are one of the early adopters. We did see some banks enhancing their banking proposition. For DBS, there's a tagline called "Bank less, live more." So they actually want to go into the consumer's lifestyle. Being a marketplace, they talk about your property, your car, your travel, they want to be there with you. In all the consumers, what they're doing, their education, even utilities, they are there. OCBC also, they talk about wellness, being entrenched into your lifestyle. So because consumer is looking for more, they want a one-stop shop to do everything, so and to take care of their daily needs as well. Convenience, we are also busy, and we hope that we have a one-stop shop to bank to deal with everything that we need to do. So all these are some of the things that banks have been coping. And I guess what's more important, also maybe of interest to all the SMEs, will be what's the impact of fintechs on SMEs. There are 4 areas. The impact to your businesses, to your banking, to your customers, and to your employees. So I'll just share some case studies here. Fintechs, they're empowering SMEs, your customers. There are a lot of buy now, pay later. If you're a retailer, technologies like buy now, pay later enables you to work with them, partner them, and offer your customers, when they purchase a product from your shop, this facility. Of course, that comes with a lot of moral ethics about granting all these credits to consumer. So that's another point on its own. But as a SME, if you're a retailer, you have all this rely on Atom to really to help finance your consumer to buy your good. Then within the banking space, of course, there's a lot of more eating the bank's pie. Grab Finance came out, and then we have Validators offering working capital. So banks are feeling this. Obviously, these fintechs they came out to serve the underserved segment, and of course, the banks they have to react. They are not just sitting there and waiting to be disrupted. What their direction, because fintech can only do so much through the platform, through the DIY services. So banks have to step up. For instance, Maybank, you have April here, providing that personal touch. Coming in, talk about your needs, what you really need, because sometimes it can be quite frustrating on a platform, especially if you have something unique to your company, and you can't speak to anyone readily, So that's why banks they evolve their model to be something more personalized, where the machines are not able to replicate at this moment the human touch. which is also missing in today's fintech. So banks definitely it's moving to that space, reacting, as much as they empower the consumers, like yourself, they also have the RMs to work, using the omni-channel experience. So it's the best of both worlds. You have the RM, and then you have the the banking services, the app to help you with your day-to-day. So banks are also are working on that. And then of course then within banking, there's a lot of innovations also, supply chain financing. So just now April also sharing, banks also step up, change their products. So when they face all these fintech like funding societies, validators, where they created all this supply chain financing or invoice financing. So banks also change. And I heard from April, she was sharing earlier, all these bridging loans. So they evolved the product so to fit in to head on with this competition that they're facing. So it's good. It's good for business. It helps business owners. You have more choice right now. Depending on your need, you can choose to talk to a bank, to April, or even, of course, it's simpler. And maybe you'll be looking at a fintech platform per se. And fintech also empowers SME in their business. It's not just the banking needs, not just the consumer side. So using AI, machine learning, big data, blockchain, it's all here. And we can look at some use cases about how all this fintech empowers your business. If you're in the B2C retail trade, there's the AI chatbot. Banks have been using that. There's a really positive results over there. Usually in a smaller setup where costs and labor, hiring is always a problem. Having a chatbot really helps cope with the volume, and also with the shortage of manpower. And of course, the chatbot can be very intuitive. You key in all the logic, the questions that you want to answer. It can help you filter the leads, the sales from the servicing. So it help you manage your resources more efficiently. Of course, powering that is the big data underlying all this data. About clients, you can predict. Like I was sharing earlier, all this data in the e-commerce space, Amazon, they have a lot of data, so they can predict what's your buying trend. What you're buying. If you're buying Pampers, diapers for last 3 months, you probably have a new baby, like a newborn. So things like that, they can, using data, they can predict what your needs are. They can, after that, dish out recommended, personalized recommendation for you. Like, you might like this, because you buy that, I think you need this. And then, of course, there's the AR, augmented reality. It's here. In fact, a lot of retailers are using this. It can help you visualize, even tailored shirt, and it can help you visualize how the shirt will look on you, your size. And then for furniture, it's all augmented. It helps in the experience, when customers are shopping. Within the B2B space, the wholesale trade, like Glenn was mentioning, the prawn farm, right? IoT has been here, but with all this AI and machine learning at the back powering the IoTs, it can even be a more powerful tool especially within the supply chain management space. Now using machine learning, you're able to integrate AI and machine learning. You can integrate all the operational systems, from manufacturing to end-to-end value chain. Using big data, you can predict your customers' data. You can predict what is the product you want to conceptualize and the development. You can predict the demand for sales and helps you with your inventory management. So all these are something that fintech, it can be readily used, into your business. Of course, fintech will also, there will be some, like with all this change going on, within any organizations, especially those within doing digital transformations, usually there's a lot of impacts to the employee. So first of all, they must have a digital mindset, embrace digital. Then came AI, where their jobs, the routine jobs is taken away. They might lose a certain occupation, and then they're forced to use the AI, use data to do things. So the employees, it's important for them to adopt, a digital and growth mindset, to acknowledge that change is, and more uncertainties are here. COVID, all these uncertainties, trade wars, all this there'll be more uncertainties in the future, and it's going to be a constant. So we will constantly need to learn and unlearn, to reskill and to upskill, so that employees can be relevant, especially with all these tech innovations that's going on in the company. Ultimately the staff using that, they have to have the right mindset. So it's important to adopt that mindset. From a organization structure, with all these change going on, they have to corporates will probably have to adjust their organization structure. It used to be very silo work function to interdisciplinary collaboration. Because for AI to have the most optimum outcome, ideally it is developed cross-functionally. So within the businesses and the operations to come together, give their inputs, and then ensure that the AI addresses the broad organizational priorities and not just very isolated. You imagine AI to an ops person, the ops person will just be thinking how to use AI and do that routine job, replace it. But AI can do a bit more than that. So it's important that that there might be a need to adjust the organization structure. Given that AI machine learning will be part of the technology that's being used, analytics should be flowing. So it's good that we come together as a business. And the next one will be to adhere to data-driven decision making. Especially all of us with much experiences in your industry. A lot of times we make decisions based on experience. And we thought it should be like that. Based on that, the climates. So this is the decision. But with all this, that's why it's very important when we embrace, when we do all this data, all this technology shift within the organization. It is important that we also adhere to a data-driven decision making, the whole process, and so that to the employees, from the junior to the senior, they have that mindset and then come together and decide using all the data that's the organization has derived that. So it's very important as well for the employees to adhere to that. So so I'll just end off this presentation with for I believe most companies are still transforming digitally, and adopting AI. Some companies are more for the SMEs that we spoke to. They are quite advanced. They have been, because of all the grants, they've been getting CRM systems. They are exploring AI technologies to help, or chatbots to help their business. There are 7 key areas that, given that all this adoption, there are some, but to drive it successfully, there are 7 areas that we need to take note. Align on the why. Business as a whole has to have the leadership has to align on the vision. Outline the vision and align and drive it through, not act in silo as mentioned. So every function has to be aligned, and then there has to be a preparation for cultural change, because change is not easy. Sometimes most of the time it's quite painful, especially when you are doing something that you're used to, and suddenly you have to change your process. So there's a lot of culture, the change, the mindset, the heart is the heart of the whole digital transformation. And a lot of times companies they plan too big, so it makes it very hard to implement, and they get discouraged. So and advice, start small, but be strategic about that. Every milestone has to make sense to fit into the bigger picture, but you can start small and manage it, and you test and learn, so that as your within the organization, the employees can slowly adapt and adjust as well, not a sudden change to the whole thing. And then one important area is to map out the technology. We spoke to a lot of SMEs, businesses. They have been getting CRM systems, then LMS system here and there, and they have adopted a lot of systems. And in the end, the technology, sometimes they do not speak to each other. The data can't flow from the front end, your chatbot, all the way to the CRM system. So things like that. We have to map up the technology per se, and to mix so that the technology and the data flow makes sense. Ultimately, we have to seek out partners, because businesses do what they're best at. Sometimes certain things like marketing may not be your forte. We may need to collaborate with partners to drive that, and rely on their expertise, so that you can do what you do best. And focus on that. And transformation is an ongoing thing. There's always a need to gather feedback from your customers, not just employees, your customers, because they are bearing it also as you push out digital forms or digital processes. So your customers may be facing it. So you have to gather some feedback from them. How is it? Is UI UX, can it be improved? The experience, the turnaround, is it that good? So things like that. And you slowly refine. And then ultimately, all this we have to scale and transform together bit by bit, but it has to be scalable. So in short, these seven steps to success within for digital transformation, adoption of all the AI, machine learning. We have to really embrace this so that all this fintech that you choose to embrace to retrofit into your business makes sense ultimately. So yeah, so I'd like to conclude that if you have more interest to understand about big data, about AI, machine learning, Fintech Academy, we have a lot of courses there. We have some courses at NTU as well, one-day master's classes, and we cater to C-suites, to the professionals like yourself as well. So if you have any interest, feel free, contact me, or you can reach out to Glenn. We can come down to your company to talk more about this. Otherwise, I thank you for your time and welcome any questions. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Bernard. Does anyone have any questions? I mean, if you do have, now's a good time to ask. There's so much to unpack in Bernard's sharing today, and I guess many of us are probably, I don't know where you are in your journey in terms of your adoption of fintech technology, but yeah. So, does anyone have a question? If you like, you can unmute yourself and raise a question. If not, maybe we can first start with Michael Yin. Michael, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, hi, Michael. I think you got a question on you brought it up in the chat. Maybe perhaps you want to ask.
All right. I would like to know what's your thoughts on green fintech and also green financing, as they call it, because I mean there's a lot of talks about all these industries, yes, but I think now there's a recent interest in this area. I know your thoughts on this.
Okay, so green tech. Okay, so green finance. I mean, banks. When I came up with making this year, I mean, a lot of banks were driving green finance, and when I think initially when they talk about green finance, it's about what having green bonds, financing and your investments portfolio, guarding. Focused on whatever is ESG related, sustainable, whatever is green. So banks are doing those portfolio shifts. Ultimately, fintechs, how they come about. So when the banks do this shift, that will implicate a few things about how do I measure. How do I make sure my portfolio is all the greens or is all the ESG related? So it's relatively new with this space, the green techs. There isn't a lot of companies that it's really doing now. But a lot of companies that I spoke to, they are actually shifting to this space. For first start, is how do you manage the portfolio? How do you track a portfolio that's how do you shortlist a portfolio that's green using green tech? So portfolio management is one area that of focus that you can move into green tech. How do you do ratings? How do you rate green companies or green bonds? So there are some evolution in this space as we speak right now. In fact, a lot of countries, not just Singapore, are starting to focus on all these green finance. And fintech is actually quite fast to catch up with that. First, if it comes to support, first of all, if their customer base is the banks, then they will probably look at how they can use their technology to help banks do portfolio management or shortlists green investments, or even goes down to very intricate details like how do you rate like how green the company is and whether it fits into the whole mandate of the fund manager.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Bernard. So, does anyone have any questions in terms of what Bernard was sharing today? I mean, personally, I thought the last slide on aligning on the strategies on how SMEs should be embarking on fintech and how does that impact was very real for me, I suppose. Running businesses, we all have different ideas of what technology means to all of us, and understanding how that impacts our own individual businesses is something that I think we probably have to figure out on our own. And those 7 steps were actually quite an eye opener for myself. Yeah. Yiming, hey, I see you turn on your screen and unmute yourself. Are you ready to ask a question or something?
Yes, I've been
Hi.
reading the reports that we are facing a very big shortage of fintech professional, and yet you in your definition of fintech industry, it almost covers the entire industrial 4.0. So facing with such a huge shortage of manpower, sort of relying on foreign talents, how do you see the future of this industry?
Okay, thanks, Yiming. Very good question. I sit on the Singapore Fintech Association and as a board member. So personally, my focus is my manifesto when I won was to drive talent development. As a result, when I speak to E2I, WSG, even MES, they all came to me with this question about the projection. The trend is going up. At the same time, there are. And then the question by Sunendo, MES officer, chief fintech officer to me was how are we going to cope with that? Especially when we, given COVID, we can't already hire overseas, and it's not enough. And when we spoke to, incidentally, when I spoke to the Chamber of Commerce in Cambodia, I think they also faced the question from the minister was also the same. It's like, oh no, we need tech development people. So in short, globally there's a tech development crunch for tech talent in this space, not just Singapore. And the demand is, as I mentioned, there's a lot of reports. It shows that it's going up. So as a initiative for us in Fintech Association, we also want to help. Our agenda is to help the fintech owners to cope with this talent crunch. So most immediate is the government at the level. They have actually increased the intakes in the IHL, the Institute of Higher Learnings, the diploma in fintech or even in universities. They have increased the intakes by 15 to 20%. That was done like 3 years back, already. But having said that, the graduation cohort every year is still around 8,000 or so collectively. It still can't meet the overall demand. So at another point, when I talk to E2I, MES, they talk about retrenched bank staff. So that's something very real. Or even a banking union, and they talk about how are we going to reskill all these people. They were ops people, they were doing their ops, and then the banks adopted certain automation, and hence as a result, HR functions or even the process people were kind of retrenched. And so we were some initiatives around that is from the banks people, banking staff that were retrenched, or we try to help them reskill to make them because they have the domain knowledge in the processes, they have the domain knowledge in HR, just that the machines kind of replace it. So we just need to reskill them, send them to all these trainings that we have in Singapore to embrace AI, machine learning, and then how to help them reskill back and then feed them back into the fintech community. So that's some of the initiatives that we are doing on the side, and it's something that we are doing quite actively. And then reskill is one of redundant stuff, and then there's upskilling. So a lot of PMETs professionals, they also fear like, oh no, will we be replaced by fintech? So we continue to upskill them. It can be banking staff, it can be anybody. We saw a lot of accountants coming in our NTU courses. They came in for AI machine learning course. It's a 1-day program, and then they talk about RPA. Because this is the things that it's threatening their job. So for the more entrepreneurial ones, they will come in, they will take this skill set, and then they'll go back to the company and implement. So they'll be the driver. Because AI ultimately, end of the day, you make sure you are the programmer. You come in with a business logic, and you need someone to input all the experience, all the logic, and you need experience hire. The data scientist will not know your business. The analytics guy will not know because they have never done all this business. So make sure you're in the driver seats, and this can only be done by upskilling. So there is a lot of initiatives that are done, and even in schools we do a lot of outreach to change the mindset of the younger ones. That fintech is the way. Whether you take a fintech or course or not, in any profession and occupation you go into, somehow you'll use AI one day. So it's not just for financial institutions, it's everybody. It's so entrenched in our daily lives, and businesses will definitely use that. And to some point, all of us would have to be familiar, with all this fintech that is here. Thanks, Amy. I hope I answered your question. But it's a good question.
Is the problem so serious that our Singapore fintech chief is a foreign talent? It's not a Singaporean. Are we so bad now? And are we seeing more and more influx of foreign talents?
Currently, in the recent years, no. I think the government is looking, of course, this is a government policy-wise. Of course, we read from reports, they are actually focusing a lot more on reskilling and upskilling all the Singaporeans. In fact, the grants, if you see for Skill Futures is a classic example, it's only for Singaporeans. So things like that, the grants, even for PRs, is subsidized, but not as much as Singapore. So the focus and the money the government has giving is actually right now focusing a lot more on us, and we are given quite a fair bit of skill features. But we must embrace it. Use the money wisely, go and take a course, and don't waste the government's efforts to do so. Yeah. So, but government can only do so much. Give you the money, but they have to have that mindset and use the money and to learn, to train themselves.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Yimeng.
Right. Thanks, Yimeng. It's been a while since we last caught up. I hope you've been well. Does anyone else have a question? I thought that since we have Bernard here with us, and you can press on. No, really? Okay. Everybody good? Okay, I'm going to ask for maybe perhaps a quick question with Bernard and the bot. Maybe cater to the SMEs, right? It's a challenging space, right? This fintech thing, a lot of people don't understand how it really impacts their business and livelihoods as well. What do you think is a good starting point for SMEs then?
Okay. I think first start is not everybody may want to do programming. They jump right in. They will really it's not just demystifying, really make them scared of AI. So I think the first start would be to understand, besides reading from newspaper, that's the first start, but going into those courses, the one-day programs to talk about fintech innovation, to talk about AI, very high level, to understand the use cases first, how day to day it has been in our lives, to demystify the whole thing and not be scared about it, and then to show them the possibilities of AI, machine learning, or big data. What's the use case? So I think that's a good start. And in fact, Fintech Academy, we have a lot of one-day programs catering to all these to business owners. We just had a CEO runs recently, and all the case studies on AI, machine learning, big data are all tailored to the CEO lens. The CEO may need to understand, even they are not the ones doing the AI, but they will come across so many vendors coming to them about telling them how good their AI is, and every AI can give you 20% productivity increase. So things like that. In our course, we will actually teach the senior leadership how do you evaluate first of all the use cases, and then what is a good AI, how do you use data, how do you embrace that, and not just go blindly into all this technology without understanding. So I think going for one-day course is good, or 2 or 3 days, But of course, if there's an interest, strong inclination that our AI is for me, then there are, degree diplomas in fintech when it's more structured, when it's more comprehensive. You may do a bit of computing or even programming, So at least it's a warm up. So we also have certain diplomas, within SUSS as well. So if there's interest, I think that's a progressive way, and then to take on all this fintech stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Bernard. I guess. Oh wait, Michael has another question. Michael from Trinity Echo, are you still there?
All right.
Yeah, okay. So I like to get people to verbalize their questions. So Michael, do you mind?
Hi, Michael.
Given that you're operating some sort of academy, so what do you think are the current skill gap in the fintech sector that you feel that need addressing? And is there any opportunities for trainers or even companies to collaborate with you all to actually to set up new courses or etc. or programs? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. First question is about the skill gaps, right? In fact, what we observe when people come to our class is the understanding of fintech is quite varied. Most people they have some knowledge about fintech based on what they read. They saw a Hollywood movie on AI, the iBots taking over the world. Some majority came in knowing cryptocurrencies, Coinbase, good valuation, how Bitcoins run about. So it can be quite varied in terms of the understanding of fintech, during such interaction. So I would think that I think across the AI blockchain, and even cloud API space, there is a very basic understanding by majority of people. Some based on what they when they use it, they are familiar with the use case, like Netflix. They watch it, then they say, "Oh, something AI." Amazon, they predict this something AI at the back. So the understanding is there on the use cases. Just that in terms of the knowledge behind that, what exactly is AI? I will feel that the gap is quite big, or big data analytics, unless your job requires it. Otherwise, I would presume most of the people we encounter, they would not have much knowledge within that space. And that's why besides the outreach that we're trying to do to even kickstart their interest and curiosity around fintech, it's going to take a lot, because there's so many people we need to educate. That's why, to Michael, to your point, whether there's a rooms for collaboration, yes, definitely, because we have to do outreach to so many people, so many people that we need to, and it would be good to work with partners that have their own umbrellas of communities that we can, like Brands of Good, huge community here, so we can educate, and then from there raise the awareness, and they come in together to learn fintech, maybe through a one-day program first. After that, there are more interests about maybe not AI and blockchain. Okay, then they go for a diploma or in blockchain or something. So it's a progressive move, and we really need a movement. We need working partners to go out together in outreach and train everybody in this area. Happy to feel free to reach out to me. My number is there, Michael. If you feel that there's areas to collaborate.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bernard, and thank you, Michael. Okay, I'm going to do two things that's going to announce. First of all, I'm hoping that everyone can sort of turn on the cameras. We forgot to do a photo shoot, and my guys sort of reminded me. So lovely to